It's June 4th, 2022. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think about this. I'm not a film critic or critique necessarily. Not a professional one, or that anybody would even recognize or know who I am. I'm not in a studio. I don't know those people or how to even be introduced, and even if I was introduced, I wouldn't know what to say or how that is constructed. So that's whatever. And then I'm trying to say, okay, so there's this terminology in English that I've heard used before about renting space in people's heads. And theories of things in tots. I'm like, no. So if I look on this demand catalog, without going into research on film companies and studios and productions and I mean you see these tiles of these people, and in the moment that they're in their character and they're cast for these roles, they have such importance in some message. For me, it's a very strict list of whoever they hired to send the right message. I don't know who they are. I didn't get a copy of it ahead of time. It wasn't pre-scripted with knowing these things. I didn't get a leather-bound copy. I didn't get, who was involved. I didn't get pretext, prologue, epilogue, syntax, brass tacks. There was none of that. So I'm looking up, and I'm looking to see in the minds of others just how vast they've expanded their business empire, I suppose, in this format or in this method. I don't know what charitable events they do. I don't know who their families are. I don't know who they associate with. I don't know how they might have burned bridges with one another, and it could have been a nasty whatever. I have no idea. I'm sitting in the field, and all I wanted was to marry someone who already sought me out, found me, and said he wanted to marry me in grade school, no less. I'm confused as to how we went from grade school, I had a family member, to all of a sudden just complete disappearance with a couple of pop-ins. So I'm looking at the stories. I'm looking at where, it's categories. It's so scattered in subject matter. For instance, this one, Dracula Untold, Vlad the Third, which of course for me that's respect in Brai or Drai. It says Prince of Wallachia trades his humanity for the power to defend his land and people from the ruthless forces of the Ottoman Empire. I'm there's undertones and hints of things that have passed me by completely in that. And that came out in 2014. Then there's, this is how, by remote, how scattered it is. Then it goes, there's a Ex Machina, which is about advanced intelligence. It says a young programmer at an internet company is chosen to evaluate the capabilities and consciousness of a beautiful and sophisticated robot. It has airs of walnut in it, as an alternate word to this American intelligence or alternate intelligence or artificial intelligence, because as a remote viewer Their thoughts are not my own. Categorically, I can string them together to make sense with an overlay parlay. But again, and then there's this movie called The Incredibles, where it's a cartoon. It doesn't have real actors. It only has voice actors. And it says Elastigirl springs into action to battle a cyber criminal who plans to hypnotize the world through computer screens. That leaves Mr. Incredible with one of the greatest challenges ever, staying home and taking care of 3 rambunctious children. When I look at the actual movie, though, my children are no longer young, but I see they have Jack in there. Again, I just learned Union Jack. I just saw on the news at the Queen's Jubilee that they're waving a Union Jack. They said again to confirm it. Then stays home taking care of 3 rambunctious children. But in the Incredibles movie, Elastigirl goes out to work. Mr. Incredible's watching the children, and Jack turns. Like, first he's combustible, he's electrified, he's a monster, he's all these crazy things. This one little baby kid, I mean, how could one baby kid do it? So I see symbolic reference in that, but, or possibilities of what a baby infant might turn into in this molded clay and like somebody Clayton. Again, I see the threads of conversations that possibly have been held elsewhere. I have not been brought in as part of them. And then I go to the real news. I get out of the surreal catalog of how have they been enjoying their time, where I have not enjoyed any of my time. I also have not been able to enjoy projects like this or creative monologues or whatever. So I haven't been paid on anything. So I'm looking and I'm like, well, this is really interesting, because now I go to the real world and there was this really scary event where a judge, like a real life judge, does it for a living, in some backwards court system. They call it a circuit court. I don't know what the difference is. Says something happened, and again, the headline was really frightening about how, like, he was being hunted or targeted. They use the word targeted. Then it goes into something with a pilot in restricted airspace, with, like, whatever going on, and I'm just like, it's almost like, then they have this movie that they put up, and it says The Meg, meaning like a megalodon, for 2018. It says a massive creature attacks a deep-sea submersible, leaving it disabled and trapping the crew at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. With time running out, a rescue diver must now confront an unimaginable threat. And there's like this glass tube, and this girl's just standing there, and all of a sudden, like, these gigantic teeth come at her. And it's just really, like, I'm like, I see the messages. I do. I mean, I can find the threads through Universal, through several of the studios, Universal and Columbia and Century 20 Fox being the main ones in this area. But I'm unclear. It's a version of social media. I don't know if it's divergent from faction and what needs to be done. But it is so scattered. Like, I mean, But what frightens me is that in this day and age, because there was Bram Stoker's, started in 1992 with Bram Stoker's Dracula, and again, I see certain references that I shy away from because it could mean several different things of I don't want to know about it or talk about it. So I'm not even referencing it. The only thing that I am referencing in it is there's this love of this one, and I haven't seen it in forever, but there's it's this love story between she and he. She just, whatever, but it in a larger scale, it does touch on the blood order on the RH with the negative, which is very different from the RH positive. So there's that like underlying seething whatever in there that certain people know of before, like, I mean, even at like street level, before geneticists and things. I mean, in my low level histology pathology class, they taught it about antigens and so on and so forth. And then they have the Dracula Untold story that came out in 2014. And I've never heard anybody speak of the body like a machine, like a body machina. I've used it before, but like Lewis has mentioned in that he used to say, body's like a temple, Nicole. What you put into it means something. I'm like, great, then why don't we have better substance to, like, to nourish off of? Again, that was more rhetorical because he doesn't answer those questions. Back in the day, they had these juicers. They were big, nuts, things that just, I don't know. But this is the part which, at Walnut, like nowadays, there's such a video gamer where they sit in this virtual reality. They have virtual reality chat rooms. I mean, I'm not a part of it, but I've heard. And they have things that I couldn't even imagine to find one another. And so it's really frightening where it's almost like nothing's tangible, nothing's physical, nothing, everything's in some data, kata, meta, sata, light, whatever, and nothing is physically tangible and real anymore. So they live in this augmented or altered universe. And then even like humans aren't real anymore. For me, like, humans are real to a degree. I mean, my children are real. My children are surreal to me. But going out in the whatever, I mean, there's nothing special. There's nothing special. There's nothing purposeful. And it's like they've removed society from capability. And I don't know what's here. I don't know what's left. It's like post-apocalyptic is what it feels like. So they came out with this movie, Ex Machina, in 2015. This is what it looks like.
Especially if you're around a nest or babies. And you can get hurt. Woo! Woo, woo.
How long until we get to his estate?
We've been flying over his estate for the past 2 hours.
Caleb, I'm just gonna throw this out there so it's said, okay? You're freaked out. You're freaked out in meeting me, having this conversation in this room at this moment, right? But can we just get past that? The whole employer-employee thing?
It's good to meet you, Nathan.
It's good to meet you too, Caleb. This building isn't a house. It's a research facility. And I want to talk to you about what I'm researching.
Now, for somebody who got to an echelon of the surreal, like in $1 million to $1 billion, they get drafted, backdrafted, whatever, into that. and they're living a whole nother reality where I'm like more like the left behind, like something happened in the field and I don't know how you touch one another's worlds where it's just like hand raise. Like, I knew you knew me when I was a kid. Something really bad happened here. I don't want to talk about it. I've made some whatever about it, but I need the help to get to wherever, in whatever, whatever. And then on the other side of the coin, it is like if you make these video diaries of what's really going on for you and what's really happened, and the other person progressed from this could have been the reality, and they are so fortunate to live in the surreal world and not this real world. How do you bridge the gap of trying to communicate with, I just need help out of whatever this is, darkness, I don't know, of like being lost.
You want to see something cool?
And you're given a walnut. Your walnut is something like this. It's a quiet whatever. We need to try to make sure that the walnuts don't get hurt. We need to try to make sure that the walnuts get to where they need to be and avoid conflict with the whatever. In my instance, it was a crazy donkey. I needed to avoid crazy donkey. Instead, who I was relying on for marriage and whatever, sent me directly into crazy donkey path. I don't know why. I don't know if he was maelstrommed, malinformed. I don't know. But I think that the walnut story has been packaged in a certain way and propagated in a certain way that there's enough people that know that there's a need.
Hello.
You are dead center of the greatest scientific event in the history of man.
Do you have a name?
Ava.
Answer me this.
I've seen them use the word Ava and Anna. Those are the two words that they go between. Between what brought the world down and what in some Pisces type way. I saw that flash earlier. I wouldn't have used it, but for they use Pisces at the moment in this version. So, it's just complicated. At artichokes and Brussels sprouts.
How do you feel about it?
Especially when you're not supposed to talk about carrots and cucumbers, even at like a whatever.
Her AI is beyond doubt.
No, nothing analytical. Just how do you feel?
I feel that she's amazing.
Good.
Do you want to be my friend?
Of course.
Will it be possible?
Why would it not be? Did you know that Ethan brought it?
I did notice all the post-it notes behind the screens.
Here to test you.
Caleb, you're wrong.
Wrong about what?
Nathan, you shouldn't trust anything he says.
Does Ava actually like you? Or is she just pretending to like you?
Is it Nathan or Nation? That gets confusing because they're awfully similar in sound. And for that matter, which one would they be talking about?
Self-awareness, manipulation, sexuality.
Are you attracted to me?
Now, if that isn't true AI, what is?
Caleb, there's something I want to show you.
Can we talk about the lies you've been spinning me?
What lies?
Today, I'm going to test you.
Why me?
Caleb, you have to help me.
What was the real test? You.
Is it strange to have made something that hates you? What will happen to me if I fail your test?
What happens if somebody was given a walnut and they abandon it? Like all of these things just keep going through. I mean, like I see that in the science fiction and the science whatever and the scientology of it. I mean, I did, by the way, go to Manhattan. I filled out a job application. I mean, again, didn't know what to do with that. At the end of it, I did put Helen. I signed it Helen of Troy. Just as something different as a call sign.
Make sure to bring your pillow to.
It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.